Everyone, it's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Yeah, Emil Amok. Welcome to my takeout. My takes on all things considerable. On the screen, if you're watching, is the poster, the working poster of Emil Amok 69. Make of it what you will. But it is a rather suggestive title. It suggests pleasure, which it might be, but we are in a very 69-ish kind of position now these days, where up is down and down is up, and it doesn't feel very pleasurable. But Emil Amok 69, my new show, written and performed by me, Emil Amok Guillermo, not Amok like, McDuck or Macbeth, MC Guillermo, no, Amok, A-M-O-K Guillermo. They're a little Malay, Filipino, little Spanishy in there. And Emil, I'm an Emil, but one of the good ones. Not to be confused with the bad Emil, who's sort of like second in charge of the Justice Department. The bad Emil, who's trying to find assistant attorney generals to sign, or assistant, what? He was trying to find prosecutors, federal prosecutors, to sign off on this Eric Adams thing, and in New York, and he couldn't find one. Say, I'm doing it myself. All right, have some courage there, Emil Beauvais, the bad Emil. Anyway, Emil Amok 69, Friday the 28th, next week, a week from today, I'll be taking the stage at 7 o'clock with Emil Amok 69, and then Saturday again, the next day, because it's a short month, 3:30 p.m., and then Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Oh, all the prime times for the people who want to sleep in, or who want to do something fun at night and want to do something during the day. Then Thursday, the 6th at 8:30 p.m. Oh, a night event for Emil. And then we finish off Saturday, the 8th, March 8th at 6:30 p.m. It's at the Lotus Room, 626 East Olive in Fresno. And there's an Amok discount. I mean, tickets are usually $15, $20 for these things. And I'm building in. I've got a built-in Amok discount, $12. Check it out. It's at the Rogue Performance Festival in Fresno. They're so proud of Fresno, they changed the name to the Rogue Performance versus the Fresno Fringe or something like that. And yeah, everything's flipped. Yeah, we're in an era where everything's flipped. I talk about that. And if you like my shows that I do here, or any of my columns you can read on Inquirer.net or on Substack or ASAM News, you'll like my performances. I'm just talking about the situation now from my personal perspective, from having just come back from New York City, where I was witnessing all this Eric Adams nonsense. Eric Adams, who's like one of the most corrupt mayors. They've got the goods on him, and the Justice Department wants to drop the charges because Eric Adams is going to open up the store. Let ICE go into Rikers, let ICE go into everywhere that is generally protected under sanctuary laws that New York has adopted. But no, Eric Adams says, look, I'm going to save my ass. Now, some people would say, is that a quid pro quo? And if you look up your corruption dictionary, you'll see, yeah, a quid pro quo. We learned about that in Watergate. We learned about that in all cases of corruption, where you do this in exchange for that. I'll do this and you do that. Trump says, you let me into those prisons and get those undocumented criminals, and we'll do this for you, Eric Adams. Is that a quid pro quo? I mean, there's tapes of the border czar saying, hey, if Eric Adams doesn't agree to this, we'll be up his butt. His words, an exact quote. Anyway, Eric Adams, we'll talk about that case a little bit. But we're in this strange time. We're in this 69 period, I like to call it, as we come up to 250 years of our democracy, and our democracy's at stake. What do we do? What is our response? How to react? I'm learning. I'm trying to be spiritual. Anyway, Emil Amok 69. There's my I'm trying to play with my screen here. See, I'm upside down. Emil, you're upside down. Yeah. Look, and I'm holding a microphone in a suggestive way. Friday the 28th, 7 p.m. Saturday the 1st, 3:30 p.m. Sunday the 2nd, 12:30 p.m. Thursday the 6th at 8:30 p.m. Saturday the 8th of March, 6:30 p.m. It's at the Lotus Room, 626 East Olive in Fresno. If you're around, if you're near, check it out. $12 discount ticket. The Rogue Performance Festival. It's Emil Amok 69. Everything's flipped. Oh my God! Written, performed by me. It should be fun. I'm going to be there. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the program again. Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. If you missed any of our past shows, I talk about the play I was in New York City, the Shine Challenge 2025, and I speak profusely about my cast members, my fellow cast members. It's really when you're in a cast of like 13, 15 people, I mean, it's a team thing, right? And it's like trying to remove a Jenga piece. I mean, you're all part of one thing, one whole thing. And it's one of those rare instances in theater that I enjoyed my part in the Shine Challenge 2025. It's Ishmael Reed's play. We're at the Theater in the New City the last 3 weeks. Just came back last Monday. And so check out show 837, where I talk about the play and my castmates and how wonderful they were. This is show 838. We're going to talk about Dale Ho. He is the judge who is going to decide the fate of Eric Adams. And today, before he made any kind of pronouncement of what he would do, he said he was going to do something else. He said, I need to hear the other side. I mean, when you have both the United States attorney and you have Eric Adams saying, yeah, we should drop this case. We shouldn't have a case. We shouldn't have a trial. And Dale Ho says, I need to hear the other side. So we're going to talk to our guest coming up, friend of the show, Daniel Phil Gonzalez. We'll also talk about the layoffs that are happening throughout the country. Ukraine, we got the 3rd anniversary coming up on Monday. And this article I read in the New Yorker in show 837 about shutting down the government. The ACLU is saying maybe we have to shut down the government. Maybe that's a proper response. And so we'll talk about that. Now, let me bring up my friend, Professor Emeritus Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus. And Dan, let me fix your picture here. Hi, Dan.
Hey, yes.
Welcome to the program. And it's only been a month. I know it feels like a couple years, but it only feels like a month. And I'm not saying I'm getting tired of it, but everyone has a short attention span, which is, I guess, why Donald Trump is just coming at us, full bore with, something new every day. It's, the so-called flooding the zone idea. But, he has his own sense of the law. We don't have rule of law. We have, if you save your country, you don't break any laws. I mean, that's the Donald Trump rule. I mean, that is an exact opposition to rule of law, isn't it?
Sure, but it's completely expected, completely anticipated. Yeah. This whole action, everything taken in concert, all of the activities that they've done,
Mm.
one are completely antithetical to law and order, which the Republican Party, at least since I've been alive, and that's now nearly 77 years,
Yeah.
right? Has always stood for law and order. And even when they didn't, even when they were doing things that were clearly unconstitutional
Yeah.
uh, at the state level, even in California, when the Republican Party was a majority, they did things that were completely unconstitutional, particularly towards students
Mm.
who were, anti-war, anti-Vietnam War, pro-peace, and pro-civil rights. So they did all kinds of things when
Yeah.
they were in power, and it didn't happen to always be under a Republican president. Sometimes they had control of Congress, and they would do unconstitutional things that went unsuccessfully challenged by the Democrats. And so there's really two sides of the story. One of the reasons that they've gotten to this extent of power is because the Democrats have been so weak,
Yeah.
and they continue to come to a street riot, with peace offerings of peace,
Well,
right,
wait. Dan,
and a
are
rule book.
Dan, have they been so weak, or have they just been woke and fair? So like, for example,
Yeah, but that's weakness.
yeah,
That's weak. When the people are coming at you and they're coming at you full steam, and they know you have to be aware they want to knock you down. They want to suppress you, not only in immediate terms, they want to suppress you forever. They want to extinguish your existence. And if you're going to stand there and then say, "Wait a minute now, this should be about justice and fairness," you don't get it. You don't
well,
understand what's going on. You don't know the nature of the threat. You're
but
not recognizing the nature of the threat.
but Dan, would you have it any other way for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris than to say, okay, look, this is what they said, right? This is the peaceful transfer of power. We're not going to challenge anything. We're not going to get in the way. I mean, what else could they have done more than that?
Yes, they don't have to do it themselves. What they have to do is make sure that as leaders of the Democratic Party, they have others that are answering the idiocy of Marjorie Taylor Greene. They have to contradict that in its face. They have to call it out for what it is. Not that she's an ignorant slut, but that you might want to do that. But you want to call it out for what it is. That what she's saying is unconstitutional, it's illegal, and here are the reasons that they are. You got to call them out. You can't just say this is a violation of Article 1. The people who claim that they want to observe the Constitution know nothing about it. They just say that. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and people are now complaining that, well, it seems as though Mr. Musk has no knowledge of history. He doesn't care about history. He's been able to win all the way up until he's the most reputedly, right, the richest man in the world. He's been able to do that because he's been able to act any way that he wants, make all the mistakes that he can, but because of his wealth, able to correct those situations and move along. Look
Yeah.
at the purchase of Twitter, and it's changed to X. Okay, everybody looked at him and said that's such a loser. $44 billion for Twitter, and it tanked, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so what? He's now been able to use X, right, as a prime vehicle for misinformation, disinformation, and a radical movement, not just to the right, but a radical movement towards fascism, openly,
Yeah.
openly. Even Germans are afraid of this guy.
Yeah. Well,
In Germany, I should make clear.
yeah. So I just don't know. I mean, this is more the Democrats taking the high road, right? They go low, we go high. It's a Michelle Obama thing,
Yeah.
and it would seem to appeal to most people who understand fairness and justice and what's right, and that's why
Okay.
they
So
do it.
what does that mean then? That a plurality of voters voted Trump back in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I agree with you.
yeah,
It does appeal to people who believe in justice and what's right. Okay, but a plurality, okay, which we might as well recognize as a majority, right?
right. De
Went ahead
facto
and voted
majority.
Trump back in. This is what they wanted. Democrats say they're doing these things and this is not what the people voted for. How the hell do you know? They did vote for this.
Yeah.
They
Well,
want they are you going to deny that there's a substantial element within the Republican Party that is about white supremacy?
oh yeah, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of buyer's remorse now among those who voted for Trump. I mean, to
a
a
lot of good
degree.
that's going to do.
It's starting up now, but you're seeing it in the town halls in Georgia and Ohio, in Republican strongholds. It's starting to happen. Of course, it's a little late for. I mean, Trump's there for another 47 months now. I mean, it's a 4-year term, 4 times 12, 48. He's done 1 month. We got 47 more months of this. Are we going to last?
I don't think he's going to be able to enjoy the kind of explosive, right, um, change that he's enjoyed for this first month.
Yeah.
Already, a lot of judges, several judges. Let me put it that way: several judges have made decisions against him, and I know we're going to talk about Judge Ho
Yeah.
in a couple of minutes, but he's going to continue to meet that kind of resistance. What I said, within the last 6 weeks that we've been talking on this program, what I've said is it all is just delay until it gets before the SCOTUS. What he wants, right? What
Mhm.
Trump wants is that it goes before a SCOTUS that has given him almost unlimited power. Okay, and then the Democrats react by saying, "Well, wait a minute, it's not complete. It's not absolute immunity. Okay, it's only immunity under certain circumstances." And when I read the material, I looked at it and I said, "Look, so you're going to go into court and you're going to argue before the Supreme Court that what this means is he can't do that because it doesn't fit under your general immunity clause. It doesn't fit there." And then you are going to expect the Supreme Court to say, "Okay, that's true. That's what we meant." Okay. You
Yeah.
really do? I mean, you got to be the most naive person in the world. I'm not talking about you personally. I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
people who believe that. And that's a lot of the Democratic leadership.
Yeah.
They're still
Well,
thinking that way. They're still thinking that way.
the Supreme Court said that the president, under his official acts, does you can't touch him. He's
He's
he,
immune. The word
he's
they
immune.
used was immune.
He's immune until after. So we can wait until he decides to step down as king, I guess.
Well, he already said that. He's king. He's at least king of New York, right?
Yeah. Well, when he said that, do you think? All right, kind of a joke, but we know what Freud said about jokes. People really mean what they
Uh,
say.
you know, he's a megalomaniac. There's finally some people in congressional town halls
Mm,
that are saying, to Republican Congress people, "What are you doing about limiting the activities of this megalomaniac?" I mean, I,
yeah.
I was really happy to hear somebody say that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
so let's do it. Let's look at what the common folk are thinking at this point, right?
Well, you know that the polls have kind of turned a little bit. The disapproval numbers for Trump are
Returned
higher.
significantly, yeah.
Yeah, they're higher than they were. I mean, they're not as low as they were for Trump one, but Trump two is still the lowest of any you know first for any president's 100 days in recent memory, going back to
Yep.
I think Clinton. So I mean, the polls. If he's sensitive to the polls, it could be. I mean, we see some retraction on some things, like when Doge fires some people. Now they realize, we can't. We need those people. Let's get them back. There's been some mistakes made. Elon Musk admits to some mistakes. Is this an opportunity for Trump to admit to some mistakes and get it right, or to pull back a little bit, or do you think no, we're just going to see more of the same?
No, they're just going to poke around and look for more places. The thing is, it's not just Trump. That's the problem. It's
Mm,
Musk. Okay, and,
right,
and and people all over the world are already seeing. They are already addressing the Musk problem as though he's the actual president.
right.
Okay, so uh, that's why I think that that relationship won't last that long. Okay, but that doesn't mean that Musk will be deposed and then have less influence on the political process, because the real reason he holds political power, he doesn't have any kind of politically granted authority. The
Right.
real reason that he holds political power is because he can end political careers with his investment of money in political campaigns. It's that simple.
Right. And also, Trump has, he only respects and values not a person's intellect or his IQ or his smarts, but he respects the dollar signs. And if Musk is the richest man in the world, there's some kind of cachet in saying, hey, I got the richest man in the world right here, and he's my guy, and he's not quite under his thumb. I mean, Trump is still kind of, I know, it seems like a co-presidency to me, but I think that at some point, I don't know, I don't think we could see the same pace for 4 years. That's for sure. It's not the
I
same.
don't think I don't think we're going to see the same pace for the next year. I
Yeah.
think that between 6 months and a year from now, okay, Trump is going to be facing real big issues.
Yeah.
There are going to be states that entirely rebel. Okay, there's
Yeah.
going to be states. I hope that California, Oregon, and Washington are among the first to do that. I think New York is going to be right along with us. Okay,
Yeah.
and they're all of these states are going to force the people in other states that are suffering from this, especially in the Midwest, right? The farmers, particularly, uh, they may close down. I mean, it depends on how quickly they can USAID contracts can be carried out,
Yeah.
but they may close down. I mean, we're it's going to be the summertime soon. It's going to be harvest time. You know, USAID took surplus, right, that wouldn't sell well for any kind of price in the United States or Canada. There was a short period of time, I think it was during the Clinton administration, when Canada had a problem with wheat and corn, and we had a surplus, and so we were actually able to sell that at a discounted price to Canada because they were hurting. But it helped the American economy because we had big surpluses. The USID contracts help farmers to sell off surplus. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that.
Yeah.
And now we don't have that, and the farmers are hurting. They can't make payments on their mortgages. They can't make payments on their equipment, and equipment is really expensive now.
Yeah, and then you're going to have the prospects of tariffs, and every time you mention tariffs or something new that is potentially inflationary, like this Doge refund, if Elon Musk gets his 2 trillion, what if everyone got $5,000? I mean, I was watching that CPAC thing where Musk held up the
Chainsaw.
chainsaw, and they made some statements. They said, "Oh, they said everyone got rich over COVID." I don't know. I mean, that was a statement that, oh, everyone got rich over COVID. That was a waste. And these are the people. And who is he talking to? But the people who are participating in the waste.
Yeah,
Who are cheering
that's
on the
right.
bus, and
That's
now
right.
they're cheering on this Doge refund. But
Yeah.
that's going to be inflationary. And you look at how the market is tanked today, and will continue to tank. And if that does happen, yeah, I
Well,
don't.
okay. Let's do an example from actual history.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, as one of the reasons that a governor was subjected to a successful recall, right,
Oh, yeah.
was because California was having budgetary issues, and what the Democrats kept saying things like, "Well, we're going to have to tax the wealthy and corporations a little bit more,"
Mm.
and they had said this several times before. I mean, we had two Republican 8 year, 2 term governors in a row, right? And
Mm.
then we got a guy that was in for less than a full term.
Yeah.
He gets recalled. We get Schwarzenegger, and Schwarzenegger says, to cut to the chase, I'm going to refund taxes. Okay. And one of the places that he chose to do that was, okay, the DMV has been charging car registrations at too high an amount. And so everybody's going to get their taxes back. I mean, or their charges back on that. And he did that, and he did one other, I think, property related tax rebate. Well, what happened? The next year hits, and we got a budgetary shortfall. Gee,
Yeah.
what a surprise!
Yeah.
Okay, and so what did he have to do? He had to raise the fees back up on the DMV, and he had to shut down the tax refund, and he had to increase taxes.
Yeah.
What
Well,
happened
this
with
is
George?
the
What happened with George H.W. Bush? Right?
yeah.
No new taxes. Remember that?
Yeah.
Read my lips.
Read my
No
lips.
new taxes. Right? Okay. And what happened? Budget shortfall, huge budget shortfall, and this is without the $10 trillion tax rebates that Trump enacted during his first term.
See,
So G.H.W. Bush says no new taxes, okay?
yeah.
And all of a sudden there's a budget shortfall. What does he have to do? He's got to increase old taxes. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
look, we're
you
gonna
know,
have
they increased taxes on candy and snacks. Okay,
yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
And so
We're gonna have
this
to
is Stupidsville. I mean,
yeah, we're gonna have to do it all over again if our
yeah,
if
sure.
they make the cut. Look, especially if they make the cuts, and then if all these budgetary guidelines that are the one that was passed by the Senate's pretty bad, but if the House passes one, I mean, because they're looking to save money.
No, that's a fraud. That's a
Yeah,
fraud. They don't care about saving money. They want to butcher government. They
yeah,
want to cut government down and suppress it so badly that even if the Democrats win, they won't be able to repair that within one term.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
what they
yeah.
want.
It won't. But but my point is, they're making the cuts. They're making these cuts to pay for the tax cuts to the rich, rather than where's the benefit to regular people? The regular people, the middle class, and those in need who are dependent on government, they get hurt. They're the ones who get hurt.
Well, when the Trump tax cuts in the first term, okay, were passed popularly by a Republican Congress, okay,
Mhm.
what happened? The budgetary office said what? They said this is going to cost the deficit. It's going to increase the deficit, by $5 to $10 trillion over a 10-year period. Okay, that's what they said. Now I don't know if that is really plausible. Okay, what I do know is that there's going to be some huge effect on the increase of the debt ceiling. Okay, I mean not the debt
Oh yeah,
ceiling,
yeah.
the national debt.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're including that. So
yeah.
so they're raising the debt. So anything that they ameliorate by cutting out waste, they're going to immediately jump it back up by raising the debt ceiling.
Well, and yeah, I know. And remember, they didn't want to raise the debt ceiling when
Yeah,
during the Biden administration.
yeah,
Biden
yeah,
said it's only reasonable to raise the debt ceiling. They said no, that's going to drive national debt
yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And people are confused, right? Because they're looking at the national debt and they're looking at the debt ceiling and confusing the two.
yeah,
Okay, the debt ceiling is an annual thing. Okay,
oh,
and it's kind of like a goal. You want to keep the budget and all that under the you don't want to create a situation where you increase the debt ceiling. You have to raise the debt ceiling because it looks wasteful. Okay.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing. This debate is going. The Senate passed their version last night, and it's going to be debated again and again. The House has its version, and then they try to um, use that congressional sleight of hand called
Reconciliation.
reconciliation. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get it through. But it is how Clinton got his budget passed, back in the 90s, and balanced the budget, and that really. But
Well, he was forced to do that. He was forced to do that because Gingrich and the Republicans were
right.
successful in showing that it could be done.
But the fact is they did it in a more skillful, less chaotic
Absolutely.
way,
Absolutely.
and
It
they
took their time. It took the better part of 2 years.
yeah, and people
There was a lot of fighting
managed.
going on, but the reason it happened was because Clinton knew that if he didn't do it, the Democrats would lose.
Yeah,
If they were going to try and go for a second term.
Yeah, I was there. I remember it happening and regretting it. And progressives have had to take it on the chin, and then subsequently the progressives seem to have won. I mean, with after post Clinton, post certainly within the Biden years, and that was used against the Democrats being too woke, being too left, being
Well, yeah, but that had nothing to do with the economy itself.
no, it
Okay,
didn't. But it was a
yeah,
culture. It was a culture
it was
issue.
most of it was culture. The thing that was both culture and how can we say government activity
Mhm.
was Obamacare.
Yeah,
You know,
and that barely passed, and now it's amazing how it sustained all the
yeah,
challenges
because
because
it's real. It was real, and
yeah,
it actually offered people who had no health insurance previously. Right? I don't know what the current numbers are, but
yeah,
I kept on hearing numbers that between 20 and 30 million.
30 million, yeah, it's hard to imagine that they want to cut that still, but it's
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they want
especially since they tried it over 60 times. They lost,
yeah,
most of the time when in court. Not only that, they never proposed a plan. They
yeah.
kept saying, "We got a plan," and they never showed what it was.
They yeah. So you think the Democrats are out of touch, or the Democrats are less?
No, they're not out of touch. They don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
You know, they kept on climbing up on cultural values, and they kept using language that came out of the academy, right?
Mhm.
And to explain their positions to a public that is majority not college educated.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're speaking a language and you're talking about concepts that they have not been educated to. That's both a failure of education and a failure of communication. That's
Yeah,
it.
and that's why the politics are bad. That's why it didn't work out for the Democrats, and it's sad because now you see they siphon just enough of people of color from blacks and Latinos to give the Republicans that plurality, and now a lot of those people are having second thoughts, saying what are we doing with these guys, and they're expressing their dissatisfaction, but too late, too late.
Well, yeah, and this is a repeat. I can understand if people were immigrants and they weren't here during the '80s when there were sweeps. Then, right? But it also that's another failure of education because what we want to teach is the better side of American history. Okay, we don't want to teach the reality of American history, and so even immigrants who are relatively recent arrivals don't know about the treatment of people of color before them. Right.
Yeah.
Um, I can speak for my own community. The Filipino immigrants that came after 1965 looked down on the populations that arrived here before the Second World War, right?
Oh,
And even after the Second World War, up to and including 1965, they looked at us, and I'm including myself in that, as the lesser.
yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I agree. There is a, pecking order. If you were born here, you do not get the recognition, nor
you're not a
the
real Filipino.
the value. Yeah. Well, listen.
So is Dale Ho a real Filipino?
Speaking of Filipino, yes, he was born here. His parents were immigrants. His grandfather fought in World War II. He grew
Wow,
up
does that sound familiar?
Yeah, he grew up in Jersey. He went to Princeton and then Yale Law School, I believe.
Yes.
Dale Ho is one of those, when they talk about the judges being the first line of defense, he's the judge, the federal judge, federal district court in Manhattan, who is deciding on the Mayor Eric Adams case. And instead of making a ruling, he delayed the ruling and said, I want to hear the other side. So he's appointed Paul D. Clement, who is a political conservative, a former U.S. Solicitor General during George W. Bush's administration, and I guess he'll have another hearing with Dale Ho. What do you think? Does Dale Ho have very many options, really, except to have more hearings? Because when you have the government saying we don't want a case, we've made a deal, and then say that there's no quid pro quo, I mean, you can't have Judge Ho saying, well, wait a minute, there is a quid pro quo here. This is corruption, bald-faced corruption, and I'm going to. Well, what can he do really, except to kind of delay and say, let's hear the other side?
He can say that he believes that the DOJ should go forward with with the criminal complaint against
Right.
Adams.
Adams.
That's
Yeah.
what he can say. He can actually say that. But what all he's trying to do is be even-handed.
Yeah.
I need to hear full arguments, and then go forward from there. It's going to be really interesting because I raised this again 2 meetings ago with you, and
Yeah.
that is, so what? So what if you get court decisions, right, that show that Trump administration's actions are unconstitutional and therefore should not be enforced? Okay, uh, and then what happens when, for example, the Doge gang is out there? I'm laughing because I heard people refer to them as the Doge bag. The
Yeah.
Doge bag.
The Dodgers. Yeah.
But anyway, what happens if they continue to do what they're doing and they have been declared to be unauthorized? Right? You don't have governmental authority to be able to do what you're doing, so you got to
Right.
stop.
Yeah.
And
No
one of the best
congressional.
arguments is privacy issues, right? How are you? We want to see how you're protecting people's privacy. You're going to go in there and look at all of this stuff. What's your purpose? Tell us what you're supposed to be doing. If your purpose is to save money, right, and cut out waste, right? Prove this. How are you going to do that? So if they don't come up with an adequate explanation, then there is no way that they can rationalize what's already questionable as unconstitutional and illegal. Okay.
Yeah.
So if they continue, they're in violation of court decisions. And then if there are court orders that say stop and desist and they continue, right, then they're in contempt. All right. Now, here was my question that I asked you a month ago, right? Who's going to enforce those orders? Who's going to, all right, somebody going to go out there and arrest these fools and throw them in jail?
Not the FBI.
Well, it's good. The initial group is going to be U.S. Marshals.
Yeah.
That would be the initial group that would be charged with responsibility. However, like the FBI, the U.S. Marshals are under what department?
Yeah.
The DOJ, the Department of Justice, which has been fully taken over at the top by Trumpers.
Yeah, the defense attorneys for Trump, and
so they get to be lawless. That's the point. The point is they get to be lawless. Yesterday they suspended. Oh man, they suspended the access to data concerning police crimes. And police actionable police crime. And so there's no data bank, right? So what does that do? If you cannot understand that they're opening the doors even wider for potential corruption, right?
Yeah.
Then you're more than naive. You're just downright idiotic.
So, but a lot of people, I mean, there are some, even Republicans now, who say that it's gone too far. I mean, we're seeing the town halls. We're seeing where Republicans are talking back to their congressmen. Is that the most effective thing that regular folks can do?
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay. One of the first things that Democrats do is we got to prepare. They're saying we got to prepare for 26, right? Okay. So that's several months down the line. That's not too far away, but it's really stupid to think that what you should do, it's kind of a waiting game. We're going to prepare. We're going to organize. All that stuff's important. I've been telling people who ask me, right, both personally and as groups, students asking me, what is it that I just did a special symposium at Sac State a couple of days ago. And I get asked, what do we do? And I give them the usual stuff, right? You got to organize. You got to, number one, be informed, be accurately informed. 2, be willing to discuss the real issues with everybody around you, friends, family, neighbors, whatever, inside your community. 3, develop discussion groups so that you start expanding, right? The numbers of people that are actually engaged in intelligent discussion about real issues, right? And then join a campaign, right? Either on an issue or for candidates. And I said this is part of political process. However, that's not fast enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do I suggest? Shut down the economy. Shut it down. Don't use your freaking credit card. Try to stay away from the gas pump for a day, right? Do
Yeah.
stuff like that. Essentially do on essentially do strike. Just a strike, a fucking national strike, excuse me, a
Yeah.
freaking national strike. You know, that is the kind of thing that has an immediate effect. Okay. That's
Yeah.
an immediate and direct effect. Okay. Quit worrying about whether or not you can get eggs. You know, go for some kind of substitute. Go vegan. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Actually,
Just for a couple of
eggs.
days.
They're importing eggs from Turkey now. I heard in the news
So,
to satisfy the
that's
egg
kind of,
people.
people are going to get confused now. They're going to think they're turkey eggs.
Yeah, I know they're
I
going.
want chicken eggs, not.
So, all right. Now it's funny that you mentioned this
Oh,
idea
funny.
of a general strike, because I was reading the New Yorker, and David Remnick was talking to Anthony Garcia. Um, Anthony Garcia, the president. Sorry, Anthony Romero.
Romero.
who's-
It's Romero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Romero, the president of the ACLU. He's been a president of the ACLU for some time. But he talked about shutting down the government, um, and so Remnick asked him, "Tell me about what do you mean by shutting down the government?" I'm trying to find it here. What does he says when you say shut down shut the country down and take to the streets? Who's doing that? Because I have to tell you, this time around, so far, we're not even a month into this. The number of people that you sense have decided things are so complicated, difficult, or awful, and have decided to shut politics out of their mind. I'm not watching the news. You hear this. It's alarming. This is Remnick talking. And Romero says it is alarming, but it's also true that it's evolving. I mean, for instance, we had a town hall, 50,000 people turned up, largest number ever, even compared to Trump won. Now, let's go back to what Remnick said, though. Do you get that sense that there are people, even after a month, they're saying, I'm shutting out politics. I'm not watching the news. It's so awful. Have you heard that a lot?
Oh yeah, I have I've seen it online. I haven't heard it from people that I know, in regular conversation.
Mhm.
But my immediate neighbors, range in let's say along the political spectrum, from slightly liberal to definitely conservative. However, the definite conservatives are independent.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my neighborhood is a little bit different, I think, than a lot of other neighborhoods, or maybe it's similar to the same, let's say, income level, right,
Yeah.
as other parts of the city. But yeah, there's still people who were former Republicans or who are independents and tend to caucus, if you will, if you want to think about it that way, with the Republicans rather than Democrats. And they're
Mm.
definitely critical of a lot of Democratic policies. They're definitely in line with Republican criticism of, quote, wokeness, right? Who
Yeah.
they have developed this abusive use of the term. They just like they developed the abusive use of CRT, and
Yes.
DEI, and
Yeah.
so they bought into all of that, but they still refuse to be Republicans. Okay, so there's a line somewhere in there, right?
Yeah. Remnick says it's a self-selecting group that are appearing, or they are going to these town halls. And Romero says, yeah, but that still shows you that there's more energy there. There's
Yeah,
more of a heartbeat. I wouldn't give up on the patient just yet. There's more of a pulse. And Remnick asks, let's go to the phrase "shut the country down" that you use. What does that mean? And here's what he says, and it's complex. He says, I think you have to call on, for instance, corporate leaders. We'll have to yank them into the pool with us if they believe that part of what's going to protect good corporate interests or the workings of the economy is the rule of law. There's got to be a moment when people are saying, can you countenance this? President Biden had a number of instances when he bristled at judicial oversight and judicial review. He hated the effort to shut down his student loan program. It's one of his signature programs. He never got it through because the courts got in his way. But it's really quite another matter when there's a final order from the highest court of the land and the president just says, don't bother me. I don't have to heed you or hear you. This is a moment when I think we'll be able to harvest the opinions of people and get people engaged in a very different way. And I guess at this point, he's talking about a sense that we have a real constitutional crisis, right? This
Yeah,
is,
there's still yeah, that's right. I think that's right. I agree with Romero. I think he's got it right. He's on the money. The question is, how are we going to do this? What are
yeah,
we going to do? We have people like Mark Elias, who's very successful at bringing lawsuits. I follow him. I follow him on. He's on Blue Sky too. So um, I refuse to engage any further in writing on Facebook, even though I do post this show on
yeah,
both Facebook and X.
yeah.
But I refuse to put energy into putting my stuff there because a lot of people, I get more follows on Blue Sky than
Mm,
I do on Facebook. I got a lot of friends, right?
mm.
I got about 1,000 people, they follow me. But what I see them talking about is not politics. They're talking about themselves, what's going on in their lives, and that's the way Facebook started, right? That's what it
Right,
was for.
right,
That's what it
right.
was for. And so I keep my account just so I can see what's going on in their lives because I am truly interested and I care about them and all that.
Yeah,
But at the same time, if they're not really engaged in the political process and political discussion, I have to put my time and energy in a place where I can communicate people who are willing to act,
yeah.
and I find more of that on Blue Sky than anywhere else. So
It will post the show on Blue Sky. Post the link. I mean, one of the things about wanting to do the right thing, I think people don't know enough, and they don't know if their voice really counts or if it matters or if a simple call to a congressman is enough. But at some point, as Romero was saying in this interview, we're going to have to take to the streets or take some kind of action where there's some pain is felt, and it's almost like the Filipinos know what it's like to live under a dictator. And what what ousted the dictator Marcos? It was people out in the streets. And we're not there yet here in America, but it may take that, don't you think?
sure, but it took 19 years.
Oh
It
yeah.
took 19 years for Filipinos to come out on the streets against Marcos, and
Yeah.
and it took during those 19 years, what 8 or 9 years of outright salvaging, and you were very
Yep.
much a frontline journalist at the time,
Yeah.
and so you're very much aware of what was going on back then,
Yeah.
and so am I. I politically, I was being asked to participate in a lot of that stuff. The formation of the NAM movement, the Nino Aquino movement, for example, I was asked to participate in that and join its international directorate, and I refused. And they looked at me like I was crazy because this is really important, and you're like looking down at this and saying we don't even understand why you're not. And I said, I'm not going to support something that is again going to be reduced to a commitment to an image to Benigno Aquino as the ideal, right, of Philippine leadership. The guy's been assassinated, right? And if you look at that, I'm interested in forming a coalition of the left, right, that
Mm.
will stay in place during this recovery,
Yeah.
right, from 20 years. And Corazon Aquino lost the left
Yeah.
within 2 years.
Yeah,
Within 2 years.
you were right, because Cory Aquino became the image, the live image instead of the image of Benigno Aquino, but it wasn't enough to sustain sustain people power,
Yeah.
uh, beyond 89. I mean, it
Well,
just,
it's because it wasn't structurally oriented.
yeah,
It was there was nothing structural about what they were promising themselves and the Filipino people. The same kind of people who wielded power under Marcos were going to be the same class of people that
yeah.
wielded power under Aquino and all of the following administrations.
Right. It was just a better oligarch.
It essentially was a coup of names.
Yeah.
It was a coup of names. It was and it wasn't even complete. Some of the people who had been enforcers under Marcos simply changed positions,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah, but Dan, what is it going to take to get that? I mean, all right, we're critical of what happened with people power ultimately, but it did get people out on the streets. It did get Marcos ousted, and you got to
and
give
it,
it
and it
credit.
lasted for a couple of years. There was
Yeah,
there was international pride among Filipinos, right?
right. You got to give it
There
credit.
was a successful rebellion against dictatorship,
Right. People power. Now,
right?
what is it going to take to get that kind of people power? Like so far in the first month, we people reluctantly are now saying dictator. They're reluctantly saying, oh, he's a king. uh what's it gonna take to, and we're seeing the town halls in Georgia, we're seeing in other places, Ohio, but you still see spineless Republican votes, for people like Cash Patel this week, and you see Pete Hegseth out there, and people, he's trying to cut the Pentagon, and you have people just going along with it. What is it going to take for people to say, "Hey, wait, let's do this right. Let's do it well, and let's stop this nonsense." Where the Republicans are doing everything that Doge and Musk and Trump want. What's it?
Two things have to happen.
Yeah.
The Democrats and the independents have to look at Republican voters and
Mm,
look for true common ground.
mm,
One of the problems, right, that has existed for well over 40 years at this point, but it was exacerbated during the Reagan Bush administration, right? 12 years of that, right,
mm, mm,
was complete, can I say, commitment to party line membership.
mm,
So people say, I'm a Republican, and whatever the hell the Republicans do, I'm going to stick with that. I'm a Democrat. The people who lost a lot of voters were the Democrats.
mm,
Okay. And one of the reasons were they always looked weak. They were good on policy, right? They were trying to be inclusive, right? But the
mm,
way they made their arguments and the way they tried to, I don't want to be redundant. The way they made their arguments against the positions, the critical positions that Republicans and conservatives, whether or not they were members of the Republican Party, took was very weak. They made moralistic and ethical challenges, right,
yeah.
rather than looking at the reality of injustice. And the public was moved on issues around sexuality, and especially around gay, gay and maybe lesbian, right? Because of the atrocious murders that occurred against gay men and gay young men, particularly. Okay, and so people started, the moralism was increased, right,
Mm,
by the horror, right, of the kind of killings that were occurring towards gay and actually at the time transgender individuals, right? Okay, and
yeah.
some of that happened right here in California in the Bay Area,
Mm.
right? And
So,
so
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 we got to
those kinds of incidences are what change people's minds. This is different.
find.
This has to be a major loss for huge numbers of people. I think that's going to happen,
So
and
a
I hope.
major loss. So when we talk about these mass layoffs, there's a major loss.
Yes, yes, I agree. What people don't understand is those cuts and those layoffs have two ripple effects, right? One of
Mm,
them is it affects the quality of your life in terms of your protection, right? Against everything from price increases to the safety of the food you eat. Okay,
Right.
so it increases the risk that there could be real harm, right? Both economic and health wise. Okay, and so in terms of health harm, what did COVID do to the people and the economy? Okay, uh, over 1 million people died. Yes, it's true. But it seems as though, even though we're only 3 or 4 years removed from that experience, people have already accepted that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 million people died, right? They're not looking back on it and saying, geez, that's a whole lot of people dying for what? A lot of them did not believe that COVID was real, okay? There was rebellion in the streets. People were attacking each other at school board meetings, right?
Yeah.
Because some people were in favor of supporting the teachers. The teachers, for the largest part, right, were saying we can't go back to school because we'll be transferring all of these this disease pattern to other kids and to us. Okay, so they wanted to do remote learning. What was the problem with remote learning? It was not an effective substitute for in-class teaching, and so we had a rebellion against that, and it was violent. People attacked people because they were wearing masks.
So, all right. So, what is it going to take now? What is it going to? We're going to need to see some individual pain, more pain.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and last time we talked, I talked about individualism, and that's exactly right. People have to feel it's hurting me, and so the ripple effect includes what I said about the risks about health and safety. Okay,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
the other one is their own jobs, because what they don't understand is if you cut those government jobs, okay, those people are unemployed. They're going to be a drain on the economy there. Okay, and all of the associated businesses and small businesses, right, that get assistance from government projects and programs are also going to be hurting. All right, and then
Yeah.
it's going to dump on the states, and the states are already hurting. You know, they're already not
Yeah.
producing enough because they don't have high enough taxes in most other states. Right, California, the problem is the opposite. We got too many high taxes, and they're not. There's only a few of them, and only a couple of them that make sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, a lot of
and
this.
I just got through talking to students about Proposition 13.
Yeah.
That thing is it's good. It's coming up on 50 years old.
Yeah.
Proposition 13, and there have been attempts to change Proposition 13 structure so that commercial real estate, right, is taxed at a higher level than it is now. And when
Yeah.
I tell them, look, if you're an owner of a property before 1978, right, your property gets taxed as though it has the same value as it did 50 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And they said, what? And I said, yeah, they get the same treatment as residential property owners, homeowners. Okay. And then, and it's forever. I say, here's the interesting thing, people die.
Yeah.
So individual homeowners die, and then the property after that is no longer safe, right, from the increase in taxes and fair market value and the 1% and 2% restraints, right, on increases in taxes. That's now the Proposition 13 or the Article 13A effect. Okay. However, does Bank of America still own the Bank of America building? And did they have that ownership before 1978? How about the Transamerica building? How
Yeah.
about the 2 or 3 Standard Oil buildings downtown? Right?
Yeah.
What about and if they still own that PG&E? If they still own those buildings, okay, are they still being taxed at the pre 1978 level? Right? At fair
Yeah.
market value? I said so. That's how. And I said, now, before Proposition 13, education, 60% of education, K through 14 specifically, right? But more than that, I said it affected the state universities, and the university system and community colleges as well. But everybody always talks in terms of K through 14, right? I said 60% depended on real property ad valorem taxes. So
Right.
when you reduce that tax base by 15, 20, 25%, you're hurting more than 1/4 of the actual revenue needed to run the public school system. We never recovered.
Yeah.
Instead, by 1981, some districts were laying off 25% of their younger faculty, you know? And they're in shock when I tell them that. I said, just go look at the history. That's the reality.
But Prop 13 has been like a shroud over public education. But the schools have made up some of the money. No, I mean, we don't get as much money, but I mean, well, there are other people who are taxed. It's not the old folks who, the pre-78, but everyone new kicks in, right?
Sure.
I mean, if you buy a house in 2024, 23,
and it actually, you know what it does? It actually reduces the rate at which new home buying and new home construction occurs.
Right. I mean, but those are the people paying taxes. The people paying taxes aren't the older homeowners, but
no, it's the newer buyer who's subjected to two problems, right? One of them is the increased fair market value. So they're paying Proposition 13 limitations, which sound good, right? They're because of 1% to 2% limitations. That sounds really good. But when the property, right, is worth 10 times what it was 10 years ago, or well, I'm exaggerating, 30 years ago, right? Then the numbers hurt. So people could live right next door to each other. If somebody was, but both of my neighbors are long-term owners. Okay,
right. So they're protected.
But people across the street who are shorter term, they've been here less than 10 years, right? They were paying $20,000 a year, $25,000 a year. Yes, because the properties are worth. They were buying the property at $1.6, $1.7, $1.8 million. Okay, right?
Yeah.
There it is.
Well, yeah.
So the neighborhood had a little bit of color to it. Let's say 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But now there's only two groups of people who can buy in, and it's easy to guess, right? It's whites and Asians. That's it.
Yeah. Well, all right. So so when is it gonna? All right. So to get back to the question of what's it gonna take to get people out in the streets?
They got to be hurt really bad, and we're talking about en masse, and we've talked about the economic end, and here's the fearful thing: the flu is killing more people at this point, hospitalizing more people than COVID right now.
Yeah,
that's happening right now, and so it might not be the flu, but it might be another epidemic. Okay, what else has happened? The resistance to science states like Texas. That's ironic, right? Because a lot of the science-based research has moved to Texas, right? From the higher tax states, so that they can save some money that way. But Texas is going to continue to get hit with really bad weather, right? Tornadoes are going to wipe out whole buildings, whole institutions. So they're gonna get what they deserve, I think, when they what Florida is gonna flood itself into a little skinny strip, right? And they keep moving to these states for really short-sighted reasons. Okay,
yeah. And so California's already been hurt.
Measles already in Texas.
Oh, measles, yeah. And California's already been hurt with the fires. And we don't hear much.
We will be hurt. We will be hurt again. So, and we're going to face other issues, right? Insurance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. People can't get insurance. Insurance companies are doing the same thing they did back in the 70s when we wanted to go to no fault decisions around car accidents. Yeah. They said we're going to leave the state.
Yeah. So the story is going to go back to when people feel the economic pain, just like they did, and they voted in 2024. And now in the first month of the new administration, nothing's being done about costs, inflation, except
what can they do? What can they do in real terms? I mean, is there something that the federal government could do in real terms to reduce the cost of everyday commodities?
Well, people think that there is.
I mean, there may not be, but
in terms of gas prices, there's something that the United States can do. Although in California, for example, some of our gas prices are due to taxes at the state level.
That's right.
So it's not, but there is something that the feds can do, because when the feds, you know, uh, when they can, I mean, I just think that there's some things. It's not a lot. I mean, when you speak specifically of inflation, there may not be a lot. But then how about the Fed cutting rates? Not that I think that they want to do it. They want to control that, but inflation is still at that 2.73% level.
Okay,
It's not.
okay, let's say they cut rates. What does that do to stimulate the economy? What is the direct effect of
Yeah,
the Fed lowering interest rates?
people borrow and spend.
Yes, and where are we
That's
right now in terms of increase of personal debt?
Yeah, the debt is high, sky high. So that actually,
People are starting to go BK again.
yeah, it adds to inflation.
Right, right.
So I don't know the answer. I'm just saying that, but people are going to start feeling pain, and maybe because I'm trying to see in our lifetimes, when did we see people take to the streets? Civil rights, Vietnam War.
Yes,
We're
yes.
talking the
Especially
60s.
when there was essentially a merger of those two movements, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the late 60s, 70s, maybe, and then it came back again. Million Man March, women's marches, during the Obama years. But really, the heyday of all that was really in the 60s. And
Yes.
I've seen a number of people who are older, maybe our vintage, saying, "Hey, we're the young people. Like, we stopped the war, we stopped Vietnam. I,
Yeah,
you know,
but once again, that took years. I mean, the anti-war movement actually started in the early '60s,
right,
but it didn't have really major effect until the early '70s, and only because Republicans and Richard Nixon, one of the better things that he did, right, was
mhm,
take the position that we're going to get out of Vietnam.
yeah."
You know,
Well, I just think that I don't see us anywhere near that. I mean,
I agree.
civil rights. I mean, part of Trump's thing is being anti DEI, which is anti civil rights. And you see some civil rights groups saying, "Okay, we're standing up and we're going to fight back," but they've been slow to
But
do
see
it.
what people once again, the anti DEI thing is really anti affirmative action. They just gave it
Right,
a different label.
right,
Okay.
right,
Where the label came from the left, right? The
mm,
left was reacting to the anti affirmative action thing by saying, we got to relabel what this means, right? And what did they see? They saw court decisions that said, yes, trying to achieve diversity, right? In education and in trying to achieve diversity in the workplace is protected, right, under the Equal Protection Clause of the
mm,
14th Amendment. And so the left adopted the terminology diversity, equity, inclusion. Okay, great. It still was regarded the same way from the right, right? And popularly, not just from the right, but popularly throughout the country, it's still seen as being unfair. They
right,
still see it as a way that race, right, gender, and especially sexuality at this point and transgender condition, right?
right,
They see that as wow, this is crazy cultural stuff. There aren't that many transgender people in the country, and you're making this thing a cultural mainstay of your platform, right? This is a major plank in your platform, and that is not speaking to what the needs of the people were. I
right.
don't want to, I don't want. Do we want to protect transgender people? Hell yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But do we want to make it sound as though this is a commitment that's more important to us than what people are paying for food? You know?
Well, I mean, I think we're talking about a major discrimination against
Yes.
specific people, and it's anti-American.
Yes.
It should be unconstitutional. It
Yes.
is,
Yes.
and yet we're allowing for it, and it's
Well, the irony is that measure was voted up during the Trump administration.
mm,
That specific measure of that was used against Harris.
yeah,
That the government is going to pay for transgender treatment.
yeah,
For imprisoned people, right? And it's that was voted up during the Trump administration. But then nobody's going to notice that kind of stuff. And when you tell people that, they don't want to believe it anyway, because it's so inconsistent what they know about Trump and the new conservative, right? That's
Yeah.
that's
Well,
the reality.
that's part of the contradiction of Trump. That's part of
Absolutely.
everything about Trump is a contradiction, and especially the fact that he's president. As
You got we really need to avoid the kind of calamities that we're so vulnerable to at this point. Just at this point, only a month in, right?
Yeah.
We have to take really radical action now. And that's why I'm saying you got to shut it down. You just got to say, I'm not going to use credit cards. I'm not going to go buy gas. I'm going to, if we
Wait,
have
no credit cards. Use cash only, or no consumer,
don't spend any money.
no consumerism. Well, that
Yeah, if you have to, if you're in an emergency situation, and you have to get food, yeah, cash. Okay, especially since they, no more pennies.
yeah, no more pennies. Yeah.
No
Well,
more
you
pennies.
figured,
And they're
Trump.
going to go for no more nickels too. I think they're going to do that too.
But nickels are white, pennies are brown, worthless. That's why
Yeah,
Trump hates
yeah,
them.
they got an Indian on them.
Yeah. Oh, Lincoln. They got Lincoln on the
They
penny.
got Lincoln on them. That's right. They put Lincoln on them a long time ago.
Yeah.
But okay, who's the Indians on a nickel?
No, there's no way. There was an Indian. Actually, there was an Indian penny too.
Yeah, there was an
But
Indian
there was an Indian. There was a
I
buffalo.
see it. Oh yeah, forget it.
Buffalo one.
I'm confusing my. I'm gonna have to go look at my treasure trove.
You weren't
I have a bucket that I throw coins into.
Yeah, you weren't a numismatist.
Yeah, numismatist.
Numismatist.
That's
Hey,
good. I like that.
so Dan, all right. So we talked about Eric Adams. Dale Ho's going to get another hearing. He's Filipino. I mean,
Filipino Americans,
Yeah.
child of, he could be challenged for his citizenship.
Are we further along that we shouldn't care, or we still should care that
About what? That he's
Dale Ho
Filipino?
is Filipino?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it
Yeah.
has meaning. Okay. First of all, it shows that there are some people, right, from the least, I think, understood of the major Asian populations. See, remember when in the 70s, the late 70s, when the census was starting to show that Filipinos and Chinese were the biggest Asian populations, right?
Yeah.
And there was a period when the Filipinos were coming in at a faster rate, and a large of that was because they were trying to escape martial law, right, in the Philippines. They were coming in at a faster rate, and that there was a different class of people. Rather than working class, right, and lower middle class people immigrating from the Philippines, there's a lot of upper class people coming into the United States, right? And so that really changed the population base within the Filipino American community. But even though we had the big numbers, second only to the Chinese, and for a couple of years, there were times when more of us Filipinos came in than Chinese. And so there was people mentioned the possibility we could actually surpass the Chinese. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it was going to be interesting to see.
We were close. We were close. We were
close. But the point is that, but we still didn't get respect. People were surprised by that.
Yeah.
People were surprised when people like Monty Manibo, right, in Southern California, won a mayoral race. He was one of the first guys to win. It was Monterey Park, I think. He won a mayoral race, and people were surprised by that. They were surprised when they saw, up and coming Filipino doctors, particularly, right? And then when they saw the numbers for nurses, it blew their minds.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So it's still the fact that Dale Ho is a Filipino American is still a big deal.
Yes.
He's smart. He's up there, and he's at the front lines.
Well, what about the recently retired Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court? Right?
Oh, yeah.
So I always screw up her last name. So,
Yeah, she's been gone for a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of years. But no, the thing that I'm pointing at is how many, the only other state where there's been a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. It's Hawaii.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right.
And so it was a big deal that one, a Filipino was on it, and two, that she became chief.
Yeah,
Right? That was a big deal. Okay.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. I don't want to diminish her role, but Sakauye, right?
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she was affected, and she was not. You wouldn't see her as a partisan. In fact, I think she was more of a Republican appointee.
She was a Republican
Yeah,
appointee and she wasn't practicing a Republican,
yeah,
but she left the party,
right.
okay, during the Trump era,
Yeah, I
the
I
Trump
thought she was.
administration.
I thought she was fair-minded. I think that's good.
She was.
I think Dale Ho is going to be fair-minded, although he's written for progressive publications in his college days. However, I mean, he's that was a while ago. He is an um, even-handed judge here. Um,
He's got a strong reputation for being right down the middle.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So maybe,
and he's handling this accordingly. I think he's doing the right thing. I'm real interested to see what the arguments are going to be,
yeah.
and I hope that the process is transparent enough so that the public can be clearly informed about the arguments.
But if Adams gets away with this, I mean that this is pretty much in your mind. I mean the the DOJ before the deal had the goods on him. They were ready they're ready. They indicted him,
Yeah,
and they had more. And so
yeah, they were
what's
going to indict him again.
yeah. Well, so what does it say about the corruption?
Yeah, what more can you say? But the people who are pro-Trump still now, the hard right
Mm,
population, it's not going to change them.
mm,
Okay, they don't care if we say that this is corrupt and we can prove it. They don't care. It's as simple as that. I've heard people criticize Musk and say this guy he's behaving in a way where he doesn't understand history, right?
yeah,
And he's supporting all these right wing movements all over the world, and encouraging them, and he doesn't understand history. What?
yeah.
I think you really stupid and naive to say that. He may not understand the history, but he certainly knows part of that history, and he certainly favors, right,
Mm.
right movements, extreme authoritarian movements, right, and he's proven that over and over again, and that's what he wants. JD Vance, right, the
Yeah.
vice president of the United States, is saying the problem is a problem from within. Okay, and one of the greatest problems facing Europe, right, is the internal. We've internalized foreigners, right? You got an immigration problem, right? And the people in Europe were saying, wait a minute. Aren't you the guys that wanted to build a wall, and you're complaining about you're trying to kick all these people out of the country and deport at a higher rate than ever before, right? So there's gross hypocrisy and stupidity going on, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else in the world can see it, but we still have a population in the United States that is able to somehow, right, see those things as non-contradictory.
Hey, so we have to blame ourselves too,
Yes,
don't
we do.
we? Have to blame the voters.
Yes, we do.
And also look, and I'm speaking if I were looking at this as a European, I'm not. I'm here in American, but especially when you talk about Ukraine.
Oh
And
boy.
and if you're a European and you see what's going on, you must think Americans are the stupidest people in the world.
Well, in his knee-jerk response to Zelensky, saying that Trump was living in a disinformation and misinformation bubble,
Mhm.
right? Trump's immediate reaction was to say, "You shouldn't have started it." You say you weren't invited to a meeting. You had 3 years to
Yeah.
to do something, and you shouldn't have started it, right? And then everybody said, "Now you know he's crazy, right?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
he's nuts." Yeah.
Yeah, he got there. Actually, he's sort of walked that back now. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Putin
Well, that
started.
isn't. Oh, so what if he walked it back? You
But
know, he
the
didn't walk it back far enough. We got to give him a shorter platform so when he walks back, he falls off.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is the Trump Putin bromance. This is
Well,
his.
it's a one-way thing, though. I mean,
Yeah. It's not
one
even.
guy's bent over and the other guy isn't.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. It's not a true 69 moment. It's kind of like. It's more like
No,
six. It's more like 68 and a half.
no.
I mean. I mean. No.
Are you familiar with the term spooning?
Yes. Yeah.
That's not a 69.
That's not. Oh, this is spoon. Oh, I thought this was a 69 moment. I thought it was a 69.
No, no.
Yeah.
This
So
69 is very mutual.
I could be. Could be.
Yeah. it's
Okay. Sometimes
it's
it's like
very mutual, right?
it should
Spooning
be. It should
spooning is
be.
not necessarily mutual. There's a giver and a taker.
I see. I see. Well, I don't know. It depends on how you define 69, and if you use it as a,
Oh my God,
if
every
base,
joke that I know from high school, right, is floating through my brain right now. So
okay, all right,
we ought to leave that
keep
behind.
it there. Yeah, I mean
Leave it
69 under
gotta
base
leave it
five.
behind, and I'm not just,
Oh yes, yes, yes. So I just think that the Ukraine thing, and we're coming up to the third anniversary, right?
yeah.
3 years. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's gonna be a full 3 years.
it's sad because, boy, when it first happened, I thought, everyone's getting the little baby blue and yellow pins, and
Yeah, yeah.
I
A
thought,
lot.
oh yeah, we're speaking out against,
Well,
the
but it was easy to
aggressor.
do because they the whole thing that predicted, like, they're gonna overrun Kyiv, in 3
Mm.
days. Remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then they lasted like 3 weeks, and not only that, they lasted like 3 months, and the Russian army was looking really stupid. They got their whole they had a I couldn't believe it because they were showing satellite pictures of how the Russians were moving their equipment in, right? And I said that you don't even need this, it's a perfect strafe pattern. You just bring in one plane and you
Yeah.
can wipe out 100 trucks, right?
Well,
Because these guys are stuck. And that's what happened, right?
it, the Russians were inept. They blew the war. They lost the war.
And
The
they
United,
butchered people. They committed, grossly inhumane behavior, okay, on innocent, unarmed people, put them into mass graves, committed clear and obvious, right, war crimes.
and so why is the president cozying up to the aggressor and leaving out Ukraine? I mean, it's almost like this is. It shows how crazy, Donald
You
Trump
just
is.
said it. You just said it. He's nuts.
Yeah.
He really is crazy, and people predicted this as a problem. In 2015, 2016. By 2016, they had the publication out, right?
Mhm.
Several dozen psychologists and psychiatrists came out and put out a book and said this guy, you know,
So,
has
all right,
no business.
you gotta put the blame back on the voter then. I mean,
Yes,
the voters, they did it.
they see his tendency towards violent language and his encouragement of violent behavior. They
Mhm.
see that as strength. They see diplomacy and reasonable discourse as weakness.
Yeah, and we're not, but we weren't smart enough. That's what's painful. We weren't smart enough to figure that out as a majority of
Well,
the
but
vote.
isn't that the typical situation? It's a emotion versus thought and act.
I guess I just it's just that we're where we are now. It's like, do we ever get out of this hole? Do we ever get out of this
It's going to
hole?
be really hard. So much damage has already been done that even if there's a reversal of political power, who holds the power, right? It's going to be very difficult to reconstruct.
Yeah,
Um, you
we
know,
we've
I,
destroyed our
I
democracy.
do you you know I'm happy you made it home safe, okay? But
Oh yeah, because of the air traffic control.
oh man,
Hey,
you
look,
know,
the day I got back, they had that Toronto flip.
right,
No, that
right.
was the day
Well,
that
that
Toronto.
yeah, and it was it was an American company,
Yeah.
and the planes, it was a bombardier, and that's Canadian made. That's a
Yeah,
Canadian-made
you know,
plane.
we are in this situation where the world is just, I mean, it's no mistake that we have Donald Trump now, and the world is going through what it's going through. And we have strong men talking to each other. And, you know, Donald Trump wants to be a strong man like Putin, like, uh, like, uh,
She, like she,
Xi, like the guy in Turkey. It's just, or Hungary rather. I mean, everything
Orban,
is,
Orban. Well, you
or,
could mention Turkey too.
yeah, that's right.
Erdogan, same thing.
Everyone, yeah, and everyone is. It's like, you know, there was a time when the dictators were being badmouthed, and we were extolling the virtues of democracy, right? And and now we've gone the other way. It's almost like, what is going on? Democracy is dead, and long live the strong man.
Well, you mentioned Marcos earlier,
Yeah.
and he, they have a certain appeal, and in Marcos's case, there was more reason to find him appealing than Trump. Okay, nobody ever said Trump that Marcos was stupid.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
one of the things that people attracted people to Marcos was that he was so bright.
Yeah.
Okay, that he was able to garner enough support that he made the Philippines presentable on the global stage, right?
Mm.
And he was associating with the royalty of Europe and England. He was associating with the soon to be deposed Iranian
Or the Shah. The
Shaw
Shah
and his
also.
family, right?
Yeah. Brit-
His wife was hobnobbing and doing other things with Hollywood elite,
yeah.
right?
And
They were
Marcos.
inviting in the world for Miss Universe competitions.
Doris
Fisher,
Duke. Doris Duke.
yeah, yeah, and
Echo Airs.
the Thriller in Manila.
Yeah.
I mean, they were putting the Philippines in a very positive light, and people loved it.
Yeah.
People loved it. So there's a lot more reason to see why people, supported the guy for the most part for about 12 years or so, right?
All
And then
right.
they started getting critical, after he declared martial law and all that
Human,
stuff.
human rights abuses being what they are.
Sure,
But now
yeah.
you mentioned all the virtues of Marcos. What are the virtues of Trump? The
That's
similar
what I'm
virtues of
saying.
Trump.
That's what I'm saying. What is he? What is he? He got a gold. He got a gold crapper.
Yeah.
He's got a golden crapper. You know, and
I,
he cheats at golf. And
yeah.
everybody says he cheats at golf, right?
I
Yeah.
think. But and meanwhile, the American people will pay for this because
Dude can't dance. He can't shoot threes.
yeah,
He can't. What is he good for, man?
I mean,
Long neckties.
I mean
Long
this
neckties.
this is going to take a long time to right the ship. I mean, after the first term, the reason I think that Joe Biden he didn't have as rough a time as people might have thought, but
No.
he did have to right the ship, and that takes time. And people got impatient when they saw the
It takes a plan. It takes a real plan, and it takes a plan that will work. What
yeah,
people don't give Biden and his team credit for is they had a plan that was based on the reality of how government and the economy works, and that's why we didn't go into the dumper even worse. Okay.
right. And now we don't even adhere to those
No,
values.
we're going.
So we're just like, take the chainsaw out and
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's like people are saying, okay, you know, get ready to flush now.
yeah.
Get out,
Look,
flush now, okay?
it is frustrating because irreparable harm. It'll take time, and I I I just can't imagine enduring the time we have.
Well, the people that have voted for Trump are invested, okay?
Yeah.
Last time we talked, I said that there's only a few people among the independents that voted for Trump. They're not going to vote for him again, okay? And then there's a few people who are traditional Republican partisan voters. Okay. And that's where you might be able to get some people to turn over. Okay. Just the same way that Reagan was successful in getting Democrats to turn over. He would never have won the first election had Democrats not voted for him.
You need people who believe in the Constitution, believe in fairness, believe in what's right.
They all claim the Constitution. I bet some of the criticisms that we've been getting
Yeah.
are that why are you against all the people who want to enforce the Constitution
Yeah.
and get rid of waste and fraud? First of all, ain't no fraud,
Yeah.
okay, except for 34 convictions of
Yeah.
felonies, you know,
Well,
of fraud
he's
by the guy who's sitting in the Oval Office, right?
yeah, he's got his qualifications on his chest there.
Yes, well, they ought to make him wear it on his forehead. You know, the new scarlet letter, right?
Yeah,
It's a big
right.
dollar sign. You know, sticking in his forehead.
Convicted felon 34.
Yeah,
Hey, listen,
we
Dan.
gotta
All right,
go.
we gotta go. All right, so look, thank you very much. Um, we'll look forward to see what Dale Ho does. Although whatever he does, he's a judge who's got kind of hamstrung a little bit, but maybe he'll say, DOJ, go ahead, convict him.
This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to actually show the force of justice in very positive and impartial terms. That's the whole thing. You
Yeah,
know,
let's
Trump
hope.
Trump has been arguing, I have been unjustly persecuted, and so I want to make sure that that doesn't happen to other people. And then what he does is he wipes out the system so
Yeah.
that even criminals can't be properly prosecuted, right? You know.
But if Ho does that, it'll just get appealed, right?
Yes, it will, and it will go to the Supreme Court as rapidly as Donald Trump can get it there.
Yeah.
Okay, but and I want to see that. We need to have
Yeah,
that
we
happen.
need to see that because some people like Anthony Romero are at the ACLU are very they have hopes for the Supreme Court to uphold certain things, like they're high that or he's high that the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, will be upheld. Not so high on other things, but that and the Democrats have sort of said that's our cause. That's going to be your
Well,
cause, birthright citizenship. I don't think it's enough,
yeah,
but
no, you know, but that's where it's going to go. So we have to be. I want to see it. I want to see it rapid. I want to see the rapid appeal of all of these kinds of cases directly to the Supreme Court. I want to see them handle these things with appropriate urgency. Let me put it
okay.
that way, and that will help in terms of moving the country forward. To a certain extent, I hope that they screw up and do something like the immunity expansion of immunity for the so-called authoritative right exercise of his presidential power. Right. I hope they do something like that in many of these cases because that will help to wake up the American public to the fact that the government has been wholly corrupted and is being further corrupted as we move along.
We need to be woke. We need to be woke.
Oh no, I don't.
We need to be woke.
Oh god, I hated the use of the term when it first got hip.
I know.
You know,
All right, don't be woke. Don't be woke. Don't be woke in that way.
yeah,
Be woke in
no,
this new sense.
no,
All right,
yeah,
there it goes. All right, Dan, thank you very much. Daniel,
okay.
Professor Emeritus Daniel Phil Gonzalez.
Thanks for having me on as usual. I'm glad to have you back, and I'm glad that you're feeling well as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm very sensitive to everything. You know, like I was masked on the plane, and I've got this show to do a week from Friday, and I'll try to bring it to San Francisco so you don't have to drive all the way to Fresno. But it's the
Yeah,
show's.
I got to check my calendar because there's a possibility we may be in Fresno anyway.
Oh, great! All right, check it out. Let me
Yeah,
know, and I'll get
there's a
you.
big sale on raisins. So
Oh yes, well that's important. That's important.
I'm
All
lying.
right,
I'm lying. Okay.
all right. There you
See
go.
you later, man. All right.
Daniel Phil Gonzalez,
All right.
College of
Thank
Ethnic
you.
Studies, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University, one of the original strikers. Really, San Francisco State strike. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what it's like to be out there in the streets negotiating. He says He wants to see a kind of a general strike, maybe a 1-2 day anti-commerce kind of thing. It's going to take something. I don't know what Romero in that New Yorker article talks about people going out in the streets. Maybe there'll be people going out in the streets about Ukraine. No, probably not. You know, I was in the Lower East Side, which is kind of like Little Ukraine, the Ukrainian village there in New York City. It's sad. I mean, you see the Ukrainian flag, you see Ukrainian restaurants, you see a community there. They're concerned. I'm a little disappointed about what Trump is doing because he's essentially switched sides on us, right? Siding with Russia instead of Ukraine. Ukraine, which was the sovereign nation that was aggressed upon by the dictator Putin. And it's like Helsinki all over again. Helsinki 2018, where, Trump cozies up to Putin. Very obviously. Sad. Anyway, all right, so a bunch of things happening. We're going to try to, I don't know. Every time something new comes up, the instinct is to say, oh, I want to ignore it. I'm going to stop watching the news. But no, now's not the time to stop watching the news. Now's the time to go beyond amok. Now's the time to be in the moment and do the right thing. Do the right thing in the moment. It's going to be different for everyone. For some, it's going to be simply calling up your congressman. For some, it's going to be talking to your friends, getting them organized, and maybe some other people who are in position to organize and to strategize will do something like organize a weekend strike. Something. I don't know. The American public has to be moved. I think slowly they are. It's got to be bipartisan. It's got to be the people realizing what a terrible mistake they made in 2024. If there's economic pain, people will feel it. All right. Shall we play our exit music? I think. Oh, here it is. All right. Hey, I just want to remind you that I have this show I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing a show. Here it is. It's Emil Amok 69. I know. Do I have my terms wrong? I don't think so. I mean, it's something where it's. Oops. What did I do? Oh, I cut us out. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I mean, Emil Amok 69, written and performed by me. There it is. Next Friday, the 28th, 7 p.m. The 1st, Saturday the 1st, 3:30 p.m. Sunday, 3/2 at 12:30 p.m. Thursday, 3/6, 8:30 p.m. Saturday, 3/8, March 8th, 6:30 p.m. It's the Lotus Room, 626 East Olive in Fresno. The Amok ticket discount, $12. Oh, yeah. That's at the Rogue Performance Festival. Everything's flipped. Oh, like that's why he's upside down. He's not talking upside down, like hanging upside down like a bat. Everything's flipped. Emil Amok 69. Is it about higher math? Something like that. Anyway, check it out. It's at the Fresno Rogue Festival. And it's a show that I'm touring, so you know it's going to get better. Usually does. By the time they take it to Canada. Oh, you know they'll love me in Canada. They'll love me in Canada. Oh, you saw they're even booing the national anthem at the hockey games. Which Canada won, by the way. Oh, well. All right. So, all right, we're going to end this. Thank you very much for listening. 8:38. This is show 8:38. 8:37. I talk about the cast and crew of the Shine Challenge 2025, which I just did in New York City. So check that out on YouTube, Facebook, X. It's there. I might replay this, so watch for this one, 8:38, throughout the weekend. We like to close with a little loving kindness, a little meditation. So, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time.